Well, his basketball playing ability, his gifts from God on the hardwood set him apart. Don Kojis, one of the legends at Marquette University, went on to a fine NBA career. But what we feel really sets him apart is the way he's lived his life, and it certainly relates to his faith. Welcome to another edition of My Faith with Homer and Pip. I'm Tom Pippins. We have our marvelous producer, Brent Young, behind the scenes, and Steve the Homer True. He had the vision for this program, Don. So as always, I'm going to tip it off to him.
Okay.
This might be the first one, Don, and arguably the greatest player ever at Marquette. We're not talking a second about basketball because your faith and your life with your faith might be even more impressive than what you did on a basketball court. And we'll get to the camp and all that you've been a part of for so many years. But I want to start from the beginning. Somebody touched you with your faith that has been a huge part of your life for so many years. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think I have to start with my parents. We're Catholic, and we always went to church on Sunday. And my dad had a big influence on me and my mother. And I had two brothers and a sister, and we never thought twice about it. We just followed them right to church on Sundays and holidays, and that was just what we did. We went to a grade school about 3 or 4 blocks away from our house, which was called St. Rita's, and we became altar boys, my brothers and I. And the problem was there was a 7 o'clock mass in the morning, and sometimes the altar boys wouldn't show up, so our parents would drag us out of bed about 10 minutes to 7 and put the clothes on us quick and shove us out the door to get to mass. And we were not supposed to be late, so we would come in sometimes half dressed with the vestments and everything else, and the priest is already heading towards the altar. But he would report back to our parents if we were on time or anything. But I don't know how many times we did that. But we were really ingrained in the Catholic faith from day one with good parents.
But at some point, it becomes your decision. When
Right.
did you buy into it? What was that process when you are on your own? It happens to people at different ages.
Well, I went to Marquette, and I told everybody I had about 35 offers, and I told everybody I wanted to go, if possible, to a Catholic school, and I wanted to go away to school. So I went and visited a whole bunch of schools and universities, and then Marquette came back to me, and they said, we have a way that you can go to Marquette and still go away to school. I said, really? How are you going to do that? And they said, we'll give you a full scholarship, including tuition, room, and board. And I thought, wow, that's nice. I could then live in the dorms and have a 4-year career over there. So my parents said, well, we're such a closely knit family. Stay home the first semester and see how it works out. Because actually it was only about a 12-minute drive from my house to Marquette. And I had an old beat up 1949 Ford convertible worth about $190. So I went there the first semester, and then I came back and told my parents, I could study a lot more if I could spend that extra time if I was living on campus. And they laughed. They knew what was coming. So I says, let me spend the second semester in dorms and see how that goes. And it turned out so great, and I could use that extra 12 minutes to study. And I got to go to Jesu Church there for masses, and I got to know a lot of priests, Jesuits that had our classes, and it just developed that this was the thing to do. There never was that one moment right then and there or something where I said I'm not going to be going to church or not. It just was something that we did. It was ingrained in us.
At that age, when did your faith seem strongest? When did you feel close to God? What touched you while you're this incredible basketball superstar?
Well, you're gonna love this one. I started out. I wasn't a real good free throw shooter when I started out because you had to start out from a dead stop and then shoot. And so one day, Eddie Hickey, our coach, saw me blessing myself before a free throw. And Eddie was a man that had a few, shall we say, choice words all the time that the Jesuits loved. And he said, GD, Don, don't ask God to put the ball in for you. You put it in. And so he had me stop blessing myself and working on my free throws. So, and then one day, the best thing that happened is I got hit in the arm in a crucial time in the game, towards the end of the game, and we really needed the free throws. And God, I couldn't even feel my arm. It was, I got hit in the right bone or whatever. So I asked coach to call a timeout. He did. And we went back in, and I said, "Gee, I still shaking the arm. I can't feel it." I said, "I'm going to really make a fool of myself because I, I can't even feel the arm, and how am I going to get it up in the basket?" So they called another timeout and shook it off a little bit. And then I thought, I remember there was a guy in the pros named Hal Greer who shot a jump shot at the free throw line. So I thought, well, at least if I could get some motion going, it'd be better than trying to shoot it from a standstill, just no motion. And so I dribbled a little bit, turned and made kind of a jump hop and made the free throw. And I said, hey, not so bad. So I made the second one. So I adopted that, and the rest of my career, I shot a jump shot for the free throw line, and I think I got away from praying, and costing myself and everything else. So that was a moment that changed.
Was there anyone that touched you that you remember even today? The things they said could have been at Marquette, could have been your parents, or somebody whose faith had an impact on you or the way they lived.
Yeah, that really happened later on in my life because you guys have all heard of Pat Riley, the coach of the Lakers. Then he coached down in Miami Heat. He coached the Knicks. And when Pat came to San Diego Rockets when I was playing there, uh, Pat had a no-cut contract, and so did I. So while the San Diego Rockets were there for 4 years, Pat and I were roommates. And Pat and I were really close. And one day we were on an airplane from St. Louis to New York to play a game against the Knicks. And we had just played in St. Louis, and I was sitting there, and I'm playing a lot of minutes. And Pat's not playing too much. And I said to Pat, uh, I'm getting awful tired of the bar scenes and everything else. I got to find a nice gal and settle down. There's no time in my life right now for a lot of dating and everything else. So here comes this stewardess walking down the plane, and she really looked good to me. So I said to Pat, I'm going to talk to her and see if at the end of the flight she she's going to be in New York, because they might sometimes they fly other places. So I talked to her, and she said, yeah, she was going to fly on to Buffalo, but she was coming back. So I said, would you like to go to the game tonight? And she said, yeah. Unknowns to me, she wanted to see the Knicks play. She didn't give a rip about the San Diego Rockets. So I said, is that other girl, cute blonde, your roommate? And she said, yeah. I said, well, why don't you fix her up with my roommate? And they said, who's that? I said, oh, Slick here, Pat Riley with the slick hair and always the nice suits and everything else. And so after the game, it was a doubleheader, and it was late at night. And so Pat's brother lived in New York and was in the clothing business. So we found out that's how Pat got all his suits and all his ties and everything else. So we went out, and it was kind of late after the second game. So, but I'll get into why this was important. We went. He took us to all these nightclubs where all the different movie stars were, the stars off of Broadway and everything. So my date was named Maureen, and so Bob Wagner, the actor, would come up and say, Don, how you doing? And I said, fine, Bob. Bob, this is my friend Maureen. And she said, you know Bob Wagner? You know, a little snow job there. I, and it went on all night like this. So finally it got to be about 3 in the morning. And I said, hey, I got to go up to Boston tomorrow night and play John Havlicek at the Celtics. Pat's not playing very much. I got to get home. I got to get some sleep. And they said, no, we're going to go out to breakfast, you know, so we went to breakfast and we're all having a good time. But then it got pretty close to 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I said I gotta go. So we put the girls in a cab to go to Kew Gardens, and we went back to the hotel down in New York. Got up in the morning, went to slept in the cab, slept in the airport, slept in the cab going to the hotel, slept in the hotel, and then that night I went out and lit up Havlicek for 30 some points. So I said, you know, this gal could be a pretty good omen, you know. So after the road trip, I went back and got to San Diego, and there was a nice card sitting there from this girl, Maureen, and she said, gee, I really had a great time, and I really enjoyed meeting all your, quote, friends. You know, these people, I didn't know who they were, but so anyway, I told her, I says, well, let's, uh, uh, she said, I'd like to get together if you ever come back to New York. So 3 weeks later, they named the All Star team, and I made the All Star team for the first time, and it was going to be in New York. And this girl is very humbling because I called her up and I said, hey, Maureen, the All Star game's in New York in 3 weeks, and I'll be coming in. And she says, oh, coming in, you're coming in to watch the game. I said, no, I'm playing in the game. So 3 weeks later, we go in and we warm up first night, and then everybody who's anybody goes to Mama Leone's. You know, that's the place everybody's hanging out. Howard Cosell was there, and all the Broadway people and all the other, and so they're introducing themselves to us, and we're introducing ourselves to them. And Duke Ellington walks up to me. Never met him before in my life, and he looks up and he said, "Don, how you doing?" And I looked. I said, "Fine, Duke. How you doing?" Duke, this is my friend Maureen, and she just went bonkers. And I said, "What's the matter?" She's, "You know Duke Ellington?" And I said, "Well, you know, never remember." It went on like that all night, and we had a good time. And then the next day we played the game, and we went out and I said, I really like this gal. I want to take her to the most romantic place in New York. And they said, well, that's the Four Seasons. So Saturday night after the game, we go to the Four Seasons. It's packed. And I said to the waiter, I said, I'd like to put a reservation. And he said, nose up in the air, do you have a reservation? And I said, no. He said, you see all these people standing around here? Well, they have reservations and they have not been seated yet. So Maureen says, "Oh, let's go someplace else." I said, "No, let's go to the bar, have a beer, see if something happens, and I'll ask the guy to put a reservation in." And so I asked him. I said, "Could I get a reservation?" And he says, "What is your name?" And I said, "Don Kojis." And some guy in the crowd, 50, 60 people, says, "Don Kojis, where?" And I said, "Right here." He said, "Don, what a great game tonight. Really enjoyed it, loved it and everything. You got a reservation?" And I said, "No." He says, "Now you do. I'm the owner of this place." Snapped his fingers, and two waiters put a little table against the pole, and everybody's wondering who's coming in this place. And then they snapped them again and put two chairs, and they walked in, and she walked in ahead of us, Maureen, and she's looking around, and everybody's looking, who is this actress or whatever, you know? And she's cute as can be, and so we sit down, and as we're walking in, the guy takes my arm and he says, "The greatest thing you could ever hear in your life. Your money is no good here tonight." And I went, "Whoa!" So I'm really putting on the snow job with this girl, you know, and we're ordering all kinds of stuff. She's, Jesus, so expensive. They want $200-300 for an entree, you know, $300-400 for a drink, and no problem, you know. So anyway, a little while later, an accordion player comes over, starts playing "That's Amore" only at our table. little while later, a violin guy comes over and he's playing, and I look across the room and here's that owner going. So anyway, we decided we were going to date and everything else, and so she planned all her trips to where we were playing. Yeah. So we dated like that, and then one day after a ball game, I came into the locker room and I said to everybody, "I got some news for you." And they said, "What?" I said, "I got engaged last night." And Pat Riley says, "No, no, I got some news. I got engaged last night to a girl in La Mesa here in San Diego." Rick Edelman on our team said, "No, no, I got engaged last night to so and so." And then John Block said, "No, I got engaged." So all four of us got engaged the same night. Didn't even know it, that we knew they're girls, but so we were all in each other's wedding parties and everything else. And to this day, we've all been married 51 years to the same gal.
Wow.
Well, not the same gal, you understand, but
Yes.
the
Yeah.
same one. So what I was leading up to was they had such a thing out here in California and other places named Cursillo. It's a short Christian weekend where you go on Thursday night, all men, and it's put on by all men, and it's unlike any other retreat you've ever been to. So I was asked to go to one of those, and you have to be sponsored. So I did, and it was one of the most great experiences in my life. My wife was not Catholic, but she agreed that she would go the next 2 weeks. She would go to that Cursillo. And then when I came home, she saw a look on my face that I had really quite an experience. And as I walked in the door, I looked upstairs and I said to her, "Hi, honey, how you doing?" Now I haven't been there for four days. And I said, "I had the most wonderful time." She says, "I'm glad you did, because your son," we had a little boy, "had diarrhea all week, and he was crapping on this and crapping on that and everything else in here, and I'm going to bed." Oh, this isn't working out the way I thought. I thought she'd be happy to hear about this. So after that, I called a couple people and I said, "This isn't going well. My wife doesn't want to go on her weekend now in 2 weeks." And they said, "Well, let us talk to her." So some women started calling our house, and she's picking up the phone and saying, "What the heck? You go away on this so-called weekend, and now you got all these women calling you?" So finally, we got her on the bus, and she went and had her Cursillo weekend. And on the last day, they all allow them to get up and speak. And she got up and she always said, "You Catholics. Yeah, I don't know why you believe what you believe, but you Catholics." It was always "you Catholics." So she got her turn to get up to speak, and she said, "You Catholics." And I went, "Oh no." And she said, "I learned a lot this weekend. I found a priest that was musically inclined like I am. She sings very well, and she said, he explained to me why you Catholics believe what you believe, and I know when I get off of this weekend, I'm going to become a Catholic." And I went, "Whoa, that was not in the books." And so she took her lessons to become a Catholic and everything, and that was one of the big turning points in my life, because now we were going to the same church, and we eventually had three boys, so we just carried that right along with it. But that was really a turning point. So I made a silent vow to the Lord that I said, "Okay, for having my wife join the Catholic faith and us together, I'm open for everything, anything and everything that you have for my life. But I know it'll be something small." Well, it turned out to be that camp.
1976. This is when it started, correct? And before we get to the camp, your faith seems as simple as your ability on a basketball floor. We talk to people about their faith. There's so much to it. Yours seems so simple. Is it always been that strong, and is simple or easy the right word?
Well, when I got into the pros, I was playing for Baltimore, and it wasn't a manly thing to really go to church and everything else with the NBA. It just didn't seem like that. So Kevin Lockery was Catholic, and there was another player or two. So when we were on the road, we would sneak out and go to mass, and then come back and join the rest of the team because we wanted to seem manly, and everything else. But no matter what, we just felt an obligation uh, that we wanted to go to church, and we felt better after attending church. And that just carried on through the NBA. I just always found a way. There were a few times when we couldn't because we were traveling and getting on airplanes. The schedule wouldn't allow for it. But basically, we um, we made it to church. And you're right. It seemed like just the thing to do. That's the way I was brought up. My parents were that way. They had a great influence on me, and just followed through on that.